This is the commentary for my world record in Spyro the Dragon, and if you're wondering why I've been making so many of these lately, it's because I'm the love child of a bastard affair between Siglemic and Summoning Salt, put on this earth to change speedrunning history as we know it. Some people help the poor, some people advocate for change, but I play a kid's game from 1998. So with that out of the way, let's get into the run and look at why this may be the last minute barrier ever achieved in this category. Enjoy. This category is called any percent, which means we need to collect 6,000 gems, 5 billion dragons, 8 quintillion dragon eggs, and 9 quadrillion girlfriends, which you don't even have one yet. But that's okay, because I feel that love will find you so long as you work on your own happiness. I'm just kidding. Video games are the only thing that matters in life, am I right, guys? So why are we entering this level first instead of any other? Well, it's because this level has a lot of dragons and gems. So since we have to go so far out of our way for those things, we tend to prioritize levels that can maximize our gems per second. So for any given segment of the run, it's generally acceptable to go out of your way for gems, so long as you're getting about 3.5 gems per second of movement. So that's why I skip the gems on the right side of this room, but collect the ones on the left. I take the time to go around the side of some dragons in order to minimize the time that Spyro walks before the dragon explodes and fucking dies. This saves about a second per dragon. I'll fast forward through boring parts of this run because I'm awkward and don't have anything to say. Now check out this jump right here that can barely make it out of bounds unintentionally, giving us a nice route to the final dragon of the level. I mean, it's not really out of bounds because you're like meant to go there eventually, but like, you know, it's a sequence break. Man, whatever, dude, shut up. And once we're done collecting guild ass, we can just pause and exit the level because we're done collecting stuff. Sometimes we exit through the vortices as well, but those only save a couple frames, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's why this game is so cool with its free open-ended level design. It's really better than Crash Bandicoot, and I'm sure all of you will agree with me on that. Right? We do another unintended jump right here to get to the end of the level early and collect all of the juicy, high-value gems. And you can see I home in some of these gems after flaming, even though they're supposed to just pop in the air. That's because I charge into their spawn point as quickly as possible after the flame, which is a very precise movement and timing technique that you'll see me abuse throughout this run. It's part of what makes the movement and skill ceiling so high of this game, and why I just love speedrunning it so much. I mean, it's just such a great game. I love Spyro. Alright, I'm done being zesty. Check out this wall glide in the home world here that takes us out of bounds and over the mountain. We barely shimmy up against this wall to maintain our height, landing on specific polygons and then going through the mountain where there's no collision, skipping a ton of time for us collecting this particular dragon. And by a ton of time, I mean like 5 to 10 seconds. Whoopee. But did you know that you can skip that first dragon back at the pedestal at the very start of the game by doing a frame-perfect, weird-ass flop that triggers a void-out animation as you touch Nestor to skip his unskippable dialogue? Then you can reroute Stone Hill in order to get extra gems and save a few more seconds. That is fucking badass, but I'm too much of a pussy to go for that, so we don't do that here, but maybe a future world record will. And to be honest, that's probably the most glaring omission from both my any percent and 120% records in this game. But with that said, it speaks a lot to how much time you can put into a game and make up for that with better execution, with well-practiced routing, and with basically no-lifing this game every day as a full-time streamer instead of having a real social life or anything like that. So, I mean, you can just make up for time losses. You don't have to necessarily go for all the fastest things. You just need to be dedicated. And with that, let's head into Dry Canyon and kill the yellow enemy that's above me off screen using this fan chest. The fan actually flies up and fucking kills him, which we'll see his body later from the delayed death animation. This second bird right here is a fucking asshole because sometimes he doesn't swoop down at all, forcing me to do an awkward recovery where you get body blocked and hit by this yellow guy. But it speaks to something kind of interesting about the actual camera manipulation of this game. Every enemy's AI is consistent so long as your camera movement up to them is consistent. So there's really no randomness or RNG with the enemy AI, but there is a sense of luckiness when it comes to doing the exact same movement every time. Now this is actually the hardest jump in the entire run because you have to get a perfect full hop that sort of hesitates in the air before quickly charging and gliding to maintain horizontal speed and then charging out of the glide again, basically manipulating Spyro's movement to be as far forward as possible and landing on the ledge with minimal height lost. This is generally how we do every glide in the speedruns of this game, is by doing a little charge right before the glide and right after. So pay attention to the input display and you'll see little square presses during a lot of these glides. Entering Clifftown now, we go around the back of the start to go to this area that we're supposed to access later, sort of hidden, and then we do this weird proxy off of the mama where we get squeezed into the corner, which shoots us up into the air as a sort of fail-safe mechanic. Then, by holding X, we can roll up this roof and then charge onto the final sort of ending area here, sequence breaking the level, saving us about 10 seconds and getting us a few extra gems. As you can imagine, that whole sequence basically kills a bunch of my runs, and it's quite a miracle when runs make it past that on an even generally average basis. On this particular day that I got this run, I was grinding for about an hour to an hour and a half before even getting one run past this whole mama proxy section. So at this point in the run, the pressure really does set in and it feels like we really gotta lock in, especially for some of the tight, weird charge jumps that you see here and glides to grab the gems out of the air, trying to avoid missing major blue gems from some of these boxes and enemies. It all gets really intense really quickly at this point, and so now it's time to kind of do or die and make this fucking run happen, or else you're gonna get stuck doing the first 5 minutes of the run over and over again. So clutch up, Buttercup. And to throw another wrench into things, I'm live streaming these attempts and talking to a chat room while I'm doing this, so I really got to be careful about how much I distract myself with that. And also, if you wanted to see the stream VOD from this, I do have that and just the gameplay only without fast forwards linked in the description down below. But here we exit the vortex for the first time, finishing Clifftown, saving a few frames and grabbing pretty much all the gems here, so very nice. Well, I could have gotten an extra green gem from one of those soldiers, but whatever, it's fine. Check out this strat at the start of Dr. Shem, where we jump up the side of this weird shelf by manipulating our upward momentum by doing a little charge jump against the ground before doing a full hop. And I failed it, but that's okay, because we actually get a couple of extra confirmed gems and only lose about a second from it anyways. It's just a bit of an ego hit, I'll say. Either way, this level is still very satisfying just because of all the high value collectibles in a small area here in the first half of the level. That's what actually makes doing Dr. Shemp worth it, despite it being the only level of the run to have just one dragon. And look at that beautiful eclipse in the skybox before I go down and roll around the front part of the dragon, again saving time on Spyro's walking animation here. We don't fight Shemp here because he's a bitch, but we do have a difficult glide here to catch that basically sequence breaks the cannon section of this crevasse area, allowing us to get to the thief much quicker. And by much quicker, I mean like maybe a second or two depending on your routing. We did skip the thieves egg collection animation by doing a flame charge jump, which basically interrupts the collection that would otherwise require us to mash X to skip. I go out of my way for these greens here, which sometimes I skip if my gem count is strong up to this point, but again, the gems per second make sense, so we go for it, and we enter Night Flight, which is going to be the first of 4 different flight levels that we do in this run. I'm just going to fast forward through these because they're essentially just collecting everything and ending by bonking your head to skip the animation, so that's about it. You know, speaking a little bit more personally about the flight levels, I tend to play them safe compared to others because even though I could still save like another second or so by more optimal flying and dive bombing close to the ground and trying to barely cut corners, it just ends up with you sort of flopping and losing time in most cases. So I tend to kind of focus my time save elsewhere on my movement rather than on the flight levels. I still play within, I would say, about a second of what's optimal, so it's pretty much fine, but that's another, you could say, like sore spot of the run that does add up over several levels for sure. Going into Ice Cavern now, this is definitely one of the comfier levels of the run, not as challenging because there's a lot of enemies that you can't flame charge, aka make the gem home in when you flame, so you'll see me jumping out of the air for a lot of these bigger guys' gems, while still trying to kind of collect as much as I can, a little bit off route, kind of going a little out of my way, nothing too crazy, but just generally optimizing just basic movement here. So it's definitely a bit of a breather for me, especially before we get into Magic Crafters and Beast Makers, where the difficulty curve definitely amps up as we progress through the game. I like to charge jump into those big metal guys so that way the animation cancels by the time you hit the ground. But weirdly, I always miss this one freaking blue gem from this guy on every world record run. Like, I don't know what it is with me and that gem, but I guess in a level like this, you kind of tend to be hastier since you're so focused on the general movement instead of more broad tricks and things like that. So I think there's a little bit of a subconscious effect there with that particular guy for me. Gliding over to this dragon so that way we can turn counterclockwise into the gems, allowing us to perfectly jump up this little set of shelves. We call it magic stairs in order to get into the inner cavern, finish up the rest of the gems, and clean up the final dragon. Can I just say, I love this inner cavern area. Like, this whole level is such a cool, chilly vibe. I mean, the textures, the world, I mean, it just makes you feel, I don't know, brisk? I don't know how to say it. It's very liminal. Dig the vibe of this level. That's why I didn't want to skip any of it. But with that, that's Ice Cavern, and we are on to Magic Crafters after this, moving on to the third out of six homeworlds. You'd think I'd know at this point. Another dope vibe kind of homeworld. I actually go for a flame turnaround animation on this thief in order to take the time that would otherwise be spent mashing the X button for the egg animation. I choose not to do the flame charge jump on him because that sends me in the wrong direction. Here we're just going for the valuable gems and skipping over the non-valuable gems, but one interesting detail about these enemies is that if you jump in the air, they'll lift their platform up more quickly, so that's why I try to stay grounded on these charges so that way I can hit them early before entering into Alpine. At this point in the run, we're on what I would call a very average pace with a 12:41 Peacekeepers split. There is definitely potential using tricks that I mentioned earlier in order to skip maybe 5 or 10 more seconds up to this point, and players like Laura and others have shown that lower times are possible, but that a lot of that is at the cost of gems and being too hasty, so there's a delicate line to be walked in terms of optimizing the early game versus setting yourself up well to save as much time as possible in the late game. So we'll be seeing that as we get into Beastmakers, but for now, let's appreciate these big yellow keks, these big yellow fuck enemies. Like, what the hell are these things? These are just complete nightmare fuel, but yeah. Losing a little bit of time on the stairs earlier, but still keeping up with this platform cycle so that way I can catch it without having to manipulate around it weirdly. We can hold square and X after this dragon to charge jump up to this ledge, and then we're basically just hoping that the enemies kind of walk into us here and give us something sort of ideal so that we're not bonking all over the fucking place. We do, however, want to bonk on this firework chest so that way we can save time on the otherwise unskippable sizzling animation from flaming it. And in this section, I bonk twice, which looks really bad, but actually it only loses me about a second to a second and a half, so it's really not as bad as it looks, but it does hurt my soul and my balls. And now here, I'm just tired of the run, so I'm gonna glide into this wall and throw it all away. Just kidding! Just kidding! There was no collision, you fucking idiot! Haha! Got you again! You guys always fall for that one, but it's okay. I'm the expert here. I'm here to guide your little baby ass around this game, and with that, rescuing Kelvin and finishing Alpine Ridge, we are on to High Caves. Now here I intentionally charge jump forward for a moment before turning left, so that way I can manipulate the platform cycles while still hopefully hitting all of these enemies and tornado guys before they absolutely wreck my shit. This last tornado in particular is a real doozy because if you go fast enough, you can actually go on the left side of it without getting hit, but I'm not fast enough, and I'm actually a total pussy, so I just go around the right side, sacrificing half a second, but I'm still getting a good platform cycle here, moving on to the second half of the level, and saving time overall. This spot I have to be careful because it's very easy to fall off of the ledge from the weird collision of these stairs, and actually you don't even die here. You get something that's even slower. You get 3 grandma geriatric fairies carrying you to the top of the supercharge ramp because you're apparently a big baby that can't handle dying in a level with supercharge, according to the devs. But now all we have left to do is to manipulate supercharge speed by charging out of the air really high up to give us a little bit of extra speed that lets us get up this ramp right here and finish off the firework chests and gems before moving on out of High Caves. Now, fun fact, you can actually do an extended supercharge in this level for an extra 100 plus gems, but it does cost 26 seconds, so I opt to route in gems elsewhere, but it just speaks a lot to how you can kind of reroute this game, take out some of those extra gems I went for in the early and maybe even the late game in exchange for the 26-second time loss for an extra supercharge here. So it's just a really custom sort of routing situation that you can just play the game however you want because you're a special snowflake, you know what I'm saying? It's all about having fun, guys. It's not about doing runs until you lose your mind and yell at a chat room. It's about fun and expressiveness and speedrunning. It's truly a performance art. Well, vindictive sarcasm rooted in honesty aside, I gotta say Wizard Peak is one of my favorite levels. This level is just a vibe. I mean, I gotta shout it out for these levels like Ice Cavern, Magic Crafters, Wizard Peak. I mean, they're just dope. And especially in this level, there's a big variance of movement, tons of flame charging, tons of catching little cycles like that first wizard that was flying away from me at the start. Killing those guys early actually spawns all of the other wizards earlier, so it kind of just ends up, when you play fast, the level goes faster, and vice versa. If you make a small mistake here, you could really lose a lot of time. And here comes the biggest supercharge of the entire run. Let's see what happens. I push up against this wall barely with enough of an angle to hit the 3 blue metal chests before going down, squeaking out a green gem from an extra box, and then flying up to the final island, hopefully not getting cucked on the jump while collecting as many wizards as possible. I also collect 3 blue gems through the other side of that wall there on the final island, so that way I can do a faster death abuse on the thief. Yes, that is faster than supercharging the spring chests. Stop asking me. I'm just kidding. You guys can ask me whatever you want, even if it's redundant or if it's as personal or anything like that. I'm an open book, so, you know, if I'm ever naked on stream, feel free to be like, why is he shirtless? Or why does he skip the first dragon? Or why do we blow up Ryder's car at the start of the, you know, stuff like that. Just feel free to do all that, you know, it's all good. I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice streamer. I'm a nice guy. I'm very inviting, very beautiful, handsome even, so... yeah, that's Wizard Peak, and it only took us a little existential crisis to nail that level down. But we got another really cool trick coming up right here, which is called Boldar Skip. We actually get the camera stuck on the flight level portal in order to delay the entry through it so that Spyro can touch the dragon as he enters the level. Really cool skip. Alright, here's Crystal Flight, and since I don't have anything interesting to say about this level, I'm going to beatbox the music from it. Alright, now here's Blowhard, and the thing about this level is it has the hardest platform cycle of the entire game to catch. We have to do this first section of the level perfectly, including all of these intentional damage abuses and very careful flame charges on these annoyingly hitboxed enemies, all the way up to the first hit of Blowhard coming up here, hopefully not getting trolled by anybody, and then making it into the interior area. Can we actually get the platform cycle to work with us? And we did it very nicely. Love it. And so yeah, that was pretty much the hardest part of this level. The rest of this is just coasting and being aware of the platform cycles and catching Blowhard before he fucking trolls you or getting knocked off the edge by the firework chest later on. But with that, we are closing up Magic Crafters with a very respectable low 22 time. Again, could be a little faster. I think up to 10 seconds faster is definitely reasonable while still being on a good gem count. But I'm not complaining about this run. I mean, guys, I think this can world record. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So here we are at the start of Beastmakers, where we go out of our way for a few gems and a balding chicken, which I can personally relate to, before skipping over one of the electric charge pads in order to reach the dragon a little earlier. He only had 2 gems anyways, so as a punishment for that, I forced him to live out the rest of his days without his other charge pad friend to accompany him. I fell in the lava intentionally to give myself invincibility frames on the firework chests, only ending up with 1 damage instead of 2. Somebody let this hot god out of the doghouse, so I kill him on the rebound in order to secure the victory royale. Then we do a tricky charge against the wall in order to land on the bottom of the portal, which actually brings the camera closer to make the level load more quickly. Now, Wild Flight is actually the hardest flight level of the entire game because your execution being solid on the first half is going to allow you, during this plane section here, in order to kill 2 and then do a turnaround flop intentionally in order to avoid going into that tunnel and kill all of the planes right here. It's a really cool strat, but as you can imagine, it can be hard to kind of stretch the cycles and Spyro's movement to catch everything, but if you're really quick, you can even kill that last plane early, but I'm not that badass, but I am pretty badass, I'll say that much. Like a crumb of ass, if you will. So now begins a really important stretch of the run where our gem count is going to impact a lot of how much time we're able to save or lose over the next 3 levels. So firstly, I check these level transition screens to see how many total treasure I have. And I happen to have about 10 to 20 more than I actually want here at this point, so I have a little bit of a buffer to fuck around a little bit and skip stuff that's giving me trouble. Still, I'm making sure to grab a lot at the start here in order to mitigate some of the more annoying enemies that are going to come up later in this level. I pretty much have to grab all the enemies here because they have blues, which are very valuable to me. Unfortunately, I do waste a flame on the fan chest, but you can see how I'm really trying to play it safe despite the fact that I have room to mess around a bit. So yeah, up to this point, I definitely could have skipped over a couple of greens, but now I'm even stronger on the gem count, easily over 20 from the route that I'm intending to do here, which already skips a good amount. And now here's where all of the skips begin. I'm going to dodge this last tree trunk before going down carefully along the side of this wall in order to get some extra yellows, nice and quick while avoiding the enemies, also missing a green there. So you can kind of see how, even though I'm trying to skip some, I'm accidentally missing others. But let's see how this downstairs area goes, because a lot of the enemy AI can have an effect on you here. Luckily, I'm able to grab all of the blue gems from the wonky enemies here, while still being able to avoid some of the greens and reds that I would otherwise have to get on most other runs. Now that that's done, I can breathe a little sigh of relief that most of the weird luck factor things are done in this level except for the final room. But for now, we're going to backtrack through all of these enemies and tree stumps here while still collecting all of the high value gems. So I am skipping a lot, but I'm not like skipping all of them, obviously, before finally heading to the big fucking island at the end of this level, Australia, where they hold some of the wonkiest geezers you've ever seen in your entire life. A lot of people don't know that you can make that jump from the fan chest there around the fence. I'm not sure why they put that fence there, like to try to psych out the player or something, but it makes it kind of weirdly obscured. So here we are at Destiny Islands, and like Kingdom Hearts, I'm going to build a raft to get the fuck out of here, because these enemies suck, and I barely get out of there by the skin of my teeth. Let's see these frogs beautifully lining up for me, luckily not eating me early. You can see some of them are doing their tongue attack, but I'm flaming them just in the nick of time. And luckily getting up those stairs a little awkwardly before talking to this old dragon that Spyro dismisses like the angsty teenager he is, before the final cleanup, exiting Misty Bog on a strong gem count, saving a few seconds. At this point in the run, we are officially 2 seconds ahead of world record. Yeah, I was like dead even with record the entire time up to this, and now I'm finally ahead. So now we get a lucky flame charge to squeeze out an extra green from that dog right there before entering treetops, where we're going to have to chase down some thieves and outrun their cycles. But have you cycled your mouse to the like button of this video yet? I don't think you have, so you really haven't outrun that cycle yet, now have you? My goal for this first half of the level is to get so far ahead of the green thief that by the time I touch the dragon, he literally teleports to the island where I finally kill him. This is made extra challenging by all of the high value gems from these monkeys here. I mean, like, the more you collect, then objectively the more time you're saving, so we're kind of forced to grab these. There's really no better way. And we need as many of those gems as possible so that we can make less detours in the next level, Metalhead. Anyways, I manipulate an extra high jump off of this supercharge ramp by delaying my X press and then gliding directly to the island that you're, I guess, intended to like charge around the whole level to reach. I mean, whatever, Insomniac. I grab a staggering amount of gems here in a short time, killing that thief that we teleported over here before gliding back and enjoying one more beautiful view all the way back to the mainland. I curve around the fence and rub up against the roof to satisfyingly grab all of those gems from those boxes. Annoyingly, if you land too high on them, you can still charge them, but the gems won't home in. Just Spyro things. And here we encounter the second thief, which actually has invincibility while it's moving, and despite being able to do an early kill on him, it's actually faster to kill him later on the final island of the level. So after awkwardly bonking up those stairs, I do one more full hop into the ramp to make it so I have enough speed that I don't have to jump off the end, saving me a second, and then bonking into this wall and killing this enemy. There is actually a faster strat here, but I chose not to do it because I'm a pussy. But anyways, we're getting back to the final supercharge ramp of the level, again jumping to get more speed, so that way we can do an edge bump off of this tree right here to get up to the upper level without having to go around the whole level. And after all the cleanup, that's pretty much all of treetops for you. Very clean level there, but I'm still paying attention during these transitions between levels so that I can see a gem count of at least 4673 total entering Metalhead. Since we have more than that, I can skip some in this level, but not before sideswiping this monkey into the corner, reaching the corner before he does so he can push me out of bounds through the corner into the next area that's underneath me here. And that saves a really nice 5 seconds-ish from the next best route, so cool little time save. We have to grab the key there at the top of this area in order to get all of the gems at the end of the Metalhead fight. That's what makes fighting Metalhead worth it, actually, in this run. And now I can really burn some gems by skipping this yellow babber right here before skipping the stair area as well. This alone is saving me a good dozen seconds of cleanup, something around there. I don't know. I just pulled that number out of my ass, to be honest with you. Then narrowly dodging some more enemies and gems here to secure our beautiful pace into the metalhead fight. I am going to skip through the metalhead fight because you're just smashing through his pylons and grabbing gems. Again, if you want to see the whole run, please check it out, linked down below. And even on fast speed, we are still fighting Metalhead right now. I mean, that just goes to show how many gems you get at this end area here in order to secure a good any % pace. It's kind of surprising some of the stuff that we don't skip in this run like that. Anyways, this final homeworld is kind of clutch because we have to catch a cycle on this one blue guy, the first charge pad that we hit. So if we go very fast, we can get his extra blue gem, which effectively allows us to skip more gems earlier, so long as we can count on him. So a little bit of a gamble, but I do get it, as well as the jump up this wall right here, which is oddly finicky and has cost me world records before. Actually, that shit cost me the 36 a couple runs ago. Go watch my first commentary. But alas, we are out of Dreamweave. We're out of... Beast fuckers. Entering Dreamweaves. This is actually the fastest homeworld of the entire run, and that's because we get to skip 3 levels due to the fact that the dragon requirement is at the end of Beastmakers. So we kind of have to get a lot of stuff up until that point. And now, if we were good about grabbing gems along the way, we can basically just focus on getting 6,000 gems here. So that's why we're able to skip a lot of stuff in this final world. But regardless, we do a cool damage boost to get up to this upper area early to get the Icy Flight portal, which is very good gems per second. Those flight levels give you a fucking blowjob with the gems. So I'm basically just preserving my momentum up all of these platforms, doing that final damage abuse on the firework chest, and entering our second to last level of, I guess, this homeworld. Not the whole run, but this whole homeworld, I suppose. I'm gonna skip through Icy Flight because another boring flight level, but I will point out the cycle is at the end with the trains. You gotta be quick so that way you can bonk Spyro's head on the bridge and give him a brain aneurysm, sending him to the hospital without health insurance. So we're gonna need to do that before heading on over to Jock. And now here we want to have 5624 gems here, which I actually have more than that despite what the screen says because I leave an extra blue outside. So in reality, I have like 5627, which gives me 3 gems to kind of mess around with on this route. Let's see which ones I burn. Well, I proceed to nearly burn my entire run away by missing this blue guy right here, struggling to recover him, and then promptly skipping a green unintentionally from that metal guy. So already I'm in a bit of a deficit and a recovery situation, but I still have 1 gem to burn, so we'll see where I skip it. We only flame one of the guys here because we can make both of these jumps with a single platform, though it is extremely tight and easy to fuck up. And then bafflingly, I skipped this green spring chest that I was supposed to grab, thinking I had 2 gems to burn when I really only had 1. So now I'm at -1 gems. Luckily, I grab all of the extras on the stairs and on the stairs outside of the level, so I'm barely able to get away with it. But yeah, kind of losing some time with my gem actuation there in Jock. But finishing up this boss fight to get the last of the gems, trying to keep the movement as crispy as possible despite some sketchiness. You can feel the nerves, you know what I mean, in a level like this, and this run was definitely no different. Also, I lost an entire second on that wind tunnel because it didn't want to preserve my upward momentum. Just Spyro things. And now here we exit Jock with exactly 6 more gems to grab to exit Dreamweavers. And would you look at that? There's exactly 6 gems right here. I mean, it's a freaking miracle. I mean, I guess the god is just smiling on me on this run, isn't he? Well, we'll see about that when we get to Nasty's world. And now here I am absolutely shitting myself because I know I'm only a couple of seconds ahead of world record, but I need to hit the hardest trick in the entire game right here. To skip 2 levels, I go in front of this rat, charge into him so he squeezes me into the corner, shooting me up into the air, running over Twilight Harbor, and going through the top of the Nasty Nork head. And that is just barely enough for me to be on 36 pace, but the run is not over yet. Don't get too excited because we still have to hit some close stuff in the Nasty Nork sequence. After doing 2 unnecessarily close thief kills here, we run up to Nasty and start his obstacle course section. During this section, our goal is to keep our camera as close to Nasty as possible to keep him moving at max speed. If I look away or get too far away from him, he actually slows down during this part, and since he's such a little bitch, we can actually get ahead of him and kind of get him to push into us a little bit, but we want to get just far ahead of him enough at the end of this obstacle course to hit him with an early flame, and hopefully he pushes us through the door. There's actually a way to glide into the door doing this, but whatever, man. I'm already losing my mind. My heart's going a million miles per hour. My freaking blood pressure, my veins are about to explode out of my eyeballs. But yeah, at the end of this run, my microphone actually cut off because I was screaming so loud. So allow me to do a vocal reenactment of this a momentous occasion in Spyro speedrunning history, the first ever 36. Let's freaking go. Let's go. Freak you. Let's go. Come on.
What about Ganondorf?
Well, that's the first ever 36 in Spyro the Dragon. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. As for what's next, I really don't know. This category still definitely has room for improvement, maybe another 10 or 20 seconds possibly even, with Nestor Skip amongst other strategy and movement improvements. But with all things considered, I'm super proud of this world record, super proud of this time, and I'm more than anything thankful for all of you guys supporting me along the way with this grind. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have an excellent day. Peace out.